Let me tell you a little bit about BetOnline. It remains your number one spot for NBA, MLB, MMA, boxing. It doesn't matter. Every single prop, every single play, every single point, it's all at BetOnline. When it comes to bets, when it comes to props, everything that you need is at your headquarters for sports betting. That's BetOnline. Head to the website right now, use your mobile device, sign up, get a 50% welcome bonus. Don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV, that's Believe, to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus. Come on, there's no need to hesitate. Bet online, where the game starts.
And it got me thinking about how this whole idea of like marketing masculinity, that idea as a whole is bothersome to me. I think like a lot of young misguided men, which I was definitely one, and I think, look, I don't think it's very natural for you not to be that guy. When you're 14 years old, you are bankrupt of self-esteem and you're impressionable and you're looking for answers. Like, how can I get myself out of this position where I feel like I'm a loser and I feel like everyone else in the world is better and cooler and I am not cool? And I have, my biggest problem is that I think that this push for hedonism and decadence is really like kryptonite to the young, impressionable, insecure young man. If you're not successful with the ladies and you're in junior high school or early in high school and you're looking at this, that is the one thing that is even worse. And it just makes you, because you see, this is what I should aspire for, I guess, because he is cool. He's a fucking kickboxer that can kick people's asses. He has lots of awesome cars and he flies in private jets and he gets chicks. That is right down the line. You know, feared by other men, appealing to women. It's like, and powerful because you have wealth. That's right down the line, everything young men are desperate for. And I think that like the aspiration for it in and of itself is what's really at the heart of the problem. One of the things that I had so backwards when I was young and really low on self-esteem and really searching, and make no mistake, I'm still in many ways searching and I'm still looking for ways to make myself feel more fulfilled and happy and finding my passions and all that. But it's worlds better than it was when I was a young man. One of the things that I got so wrong was that I thought by virtue of having the Bugatti or the hot chick or lots of money, by virtue of simply having that, I would be masculine. And the truth is what one must do to acquire those things in a proper way is what creates the masculinity. And that the women and the planes and the money and the Bugattis and all that are really just decorations to signify it. And that the man who has the confidence, the daring, the ingenuity, and most importantly, I think, the will. That is what separates the men from the boys. What creates real masculinity. It's not being the school bully. It's the pudgy, nerdy kid who has the balls to, in the face of the bully, stand up for himself. That's masculinity. Right? The bully has all the trappings, has all the dressings of the masculine. But in reality, the most masculine guy there is the dude who knows he's gonna get his ass kicked, but says, I won't stand for this, not 1 second more. That's, dude, talk about manly. And so I think the misguided area is that young men are now feeling guilty for maybe not naturally wanting those things. I don't really want to go to a strip club. I'd rather stay home with my buddy here and play video games because we really like that and we have fun. And I enjoy myself. I like to read. I know it's not cool, but I like to read, but I don't know, man. Maybe I should be clubbing, maybe I should get hammered, because hedonism seems to be, at least by the internet's estimation, that seems to be really masculine. Sticking with who you really are in the face of overwhelming pressure to change that is where you're going to find your masculinity. And I know it seems weird in that I'm giving a sermon on the idea of masculinity, and I'm going to now tell you the reality is that you can't take in information about, from other people to really find yourself, because finding yourself exists in solitude. It exists in silence. Expose yourself to these different ideas and see how you as a person innately react to that. There's going to be manly dude, or Ernest Hemingway, or Jocko Willink. I think Jocko is an amazing human being, and I encourage everyone, men and women, to follow Jocko Willink. And my friend Tim Kennedy that's a real man. I'm sure if you were to, it'd be hard to ask Ernest Hemingway because he's worm food. But if you were to ask Jocko, or if you were to ask Tim Kennedy, or all these David Goggins, all these undeniably manly dudes, they had to find themselves in a vacuum, removed from outside information, because one of the ways that they probably went wayward before finding themselves and asserting their ability to become this uber mensch was from taking social pressures from outside sources. One of the ways that I increased my self-confidence, one of the ways that I increased my self-esteem, one of the ways that I was able to look in the mirror and feel better about myself was committing myself to weight training. Now, I'm not saying everyone go out and weight train. Follow me here. The reason that weight training and lifting weights is so amazingly important to me, and why it has been so crucial in me developing in a positive way, was not because I got bigger muscles. It wasn't because I had lower body fat. It was because when I started lifting weights, it was super not cool. It was super duper not cool. To the point that when I was 17, 18 years old, I did it in secrecy. For those of you old enough to know what I'm talking about, in 1996, 97, it was really not cool to be the prom king, football captain. I loved playing. I was a jock, but I loved sports. But it wasn't like cool. You didn't wear your Letterman's jacket to school to be like the dude. It was the tail end of like grunge and anti-society, and the kids smoking weed in the parking lot before school, and the kids that were like, fuck you, I'm not listening to the system, man. That was the kids with like the thrift store clothing, and that was what was cool. My sister, I have a very weird ability to kind of analyze things, because my sister went to the same high school that I went to, but we're 11 years apart. I graduated high school in 1997. She graduated in 1987. Okay? So when my sister was in high school, I was a little boy. And all the cool dudes at her high school, believe me, they were wearing their Letterman jacket, jacked, the square jaw, kind of like the John Hughes movies, all the cool kids. They were the cool, that was real, right? And if you watch Can't Hardly Wait and Scream and all these movies from my era, you didn't see that, okay? Like the kids who played guitar, or like like more of the Seth Green type guys were the cool kids, The James Spaders of Pretty in Pink, and like Ducky in the end in Pretty in Pink, like you were like, oh, he's a good guy. But the James Spaders and Andrew McCarthy's, they were still the cool kids, you know? So my point being, the fact that by the time I got clean and I'm 25 and I'm starting to get my life together, and now I have like a physique too, right? It wasn't that I looked in the mirror and saw muscles and that was like, yeah, I'm a man. It was that I kept going with this thing that I knew made me feel better. Even though outside forces were telling me, that's not cool. That's not cool, dude. And I was like, okay, but I really like this. It really makes me feel good. And then I did it anyway. And then I came out on the back end feeling like it means something to me. You know, it means something to me that I was able to be resilient in the face of outside pressure telling me to do something different, but I stayed true to what I thought was cool. So many of the uber masculine guys nowadays that are out there on the internet trying to tell you how to be masculine, they're essentially just doing the same thing that they're bitching about, but in the opposite direction. What do I mean by this? Well, a lot of the online kind of masculinity tutorials, right? They're saying that there's this kind of wussification of men, and there's a narrative coming out from mainstream media or whatever that is wussifying you young guys, and it's their pressure that's making you feel the way that you're feeling. But if you just take my information and apply it, then it will solve all that. And my take to that is, well, maybe, but probably not, actually, if you were to take the time to unplug from all of it and really make a daring internal intervention of who you are as a human being and try to develop that, irrespective of what outside pressures are, it would probably put you down a better path. Because another mistake that I see, in my estimation, is that the negative, the bizarro masculine is always looked at as like, well, that's what women would do, right? That's the anti-masculine, the feminine. And I don't see it that way. I think the anti-masculine, what the alternative aspect of that would be childlike, being impressionable, being easily manipulated, being able to be pushed around, not having a true sense of who you are, being petulant, impatient, irresponsible. These are not feminine things. That's what kids do. That's what a baby does. That's what a baby does. I did it. When I was 5 years old, I wanted cereal. My mom was like, no, you got to have some orange juice and some eggs. I didn't care if it was better for me or worse for me. I just wanted what I wanted, and I would throw a fit if I didn't have it, right? That's not what a woman does. That's what a child does. So I say stop looking through the prism of like, what is masculine is these trappings of masculinity, these kind of rumored exercises of masculinity, like hedonism, reckless kind of indulgence. The reality is that masculinity exists within us, and what is masculine for me is very different from what is masculine for you. And some of the most masculine men I know could not beat you up. They would have the floor mopped with them in any type of combat situation. It's not necessarily what it is. It's about standing. A very, very good example that I will give you from my walk of life was someone that I always admired was Howard Stern. Howard Stern I admire so greatly because he's the greatest radio personality in the world ever, right? I know a lot of people bitch and moan about how he's changed over the years, and there's validity to that, but this is not my point. Howard Stern is one of my idols, not because he's like a tough badass, because he's not. I think Howard would even admit that. And it's not because he's, so wealthy. The reason I always respected Howard Stern, and I always thought that he was super masculine, was because I worked in radio. And I know success in radio. And Howard Stern, at an age when he didn't really have the ability financially or with clout to stand up for what he thought was right, pushed back against all program directors, company owners and CEOs, and all of the sales directors and all of the people who were like, we will fire you, you'll never work again if you continue with this toilet humor, blah, 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 blah. And he did it anyway. And he's like, no, screw you. Fuck you, pig vomit. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And he came out the winner in the end through resilience and hard work and grit. And it was always, and like I said, it sounds like a lot of like fairy tale Hollywood nonsense to people. But trust me, I know. I worked in radio. I worked for the sister station to Howard for many years. K-Rock in LA was WXRK's sister station in K-Rock, New York. I know, I have and you will be constantly told when you're making $18,000 a year and you're just trying so desperately to build your career, and then someone will come through and be like, you do that again, you're fired. And you're like, if I'm fired, I'm done, I'm sunk. And it takes a huge set of balls to just push through. This is just an example, and it had nothing to do with Howard's house in the Hamptons and nothing to do with how beautiful Beth is or how much money he has, right? It has to do with the fact that, like, I know that there was tons of outside pressure saying, you do this, this is what is going to make you successful. And he stuck to his guns. And I feel like that's a really good analogy for what I'm looking at and hoping to, like, at least in a small way, guide people to get to that position, because I do think that, like, finding yourself, man or woman, child or older person, it exists in solitude. It exists in absentia from all of this outside pressure. And the outside pressure is so much more and so much more effective nowadays when you have things like 24-hour media and social media.